He's had a really great year so far, 4 assists on the season, but so great in that middle third.
We are underway from Cobb Stadium. Florida State on the year, 13-2-2, 6-2-1 in the ACC, coming off of a 4-2 victory over North Carolina on Friday night in front of nearly 2,000 fans at the Seminole Soccer Complex. Soleil Washington, Jordan Dudley, a pair of goals each as the Seminoles knock off the heels for the first time in the regular season since 2015. And that's allowed FSU a chance here to move up in the ACC standings. They can get as high as 2 in the standings with 3 points here today, as well as some help from around the league and some victories from other games going on here this evening. Duke, North Carolina will take center stage over there in Chapel Hill in that rematch. NC State, Wake Forest could matter. Pitt, Notre Dame. And then after us on ACC Network, Jen Hildreth, Morgan Bowen, UVA at Virginia Tech and Blacksburg should be fun. Cal, Stanford on the West Coast. Could matter for two teams trying to find their way to that 6 line. And the way that ACC tournament works, top 2 seeds get a bye. And then 3 through 6 will play on-campus sites in the quarters for the ACC championship. And culminating in Cary, North Carolina. Gold uniforms for Florida State. Black tops, black bottoms for Miami, a Hurricane team who fell 3-0 to Boston College in their last contest. But head coach Ken Masur talking about how he felt like his team deserved better, outshot the Eagles. Expected goals were in favor of the Canes. They outcornered the Eagles. And a matchup prior to that, a nice 3-1 victory over Cuse as this Hurricanes team, brand new leadership, looking like a force to be reckoned with here down the line. Former skimboard national champion is Sophia Nguyen. Serna. Where's the captain's armband? Washington. Now Miami. Transitioning quickly. And using that with Indaw. Transfer from Duke. Maya Indaw goes by JJ. Speedster on the wing.
And she's been one of those players that has really helped Canali, that partnership of those players up top. Canali in and of herself is very good, but being a young freshman, it's good to have that pairing, and Kim Masur talked about that, to be able to have other players that can pull attention away so you allow your goal scorer to even have more opportunities to create in that attacking final third.
Kane set up in their press. Addie Todd, new keeper for Florida State this season, taking over for one of the great college goalkeepers in Christina Roque. Here's Van Zanten, younger sister of former Notre Dame star Kiki Van Zanten. Bulls have dropped back into a 3-5-2 formation over the last 5 or 6 contests. Has allowed them to create width, create space, and really press teams to turn them over. And getting into attack, it's turned into 15 goals over their last 4 contests. And they've only conceded 3 goals, Casey, and only 1 of them in the run of play.
And that's really impressive to do when you play out of the 3-5-2. You have those 3 in the back, so counter-attacking transition moments that you have to defend can be difficult. So you have to take care of the ball, or you have to recover quickly, and that's something that Florida State is definitely doing.
Jimenez intended for Washington. She had 2 goals against Carolina last Friday night. A little too strong there.
And we'll take a look. They're getting the wide channel for Florida State. This is a great first touch in, and then the ball across is good, but 2 runs both going to the near post area. The organization to get someone to that far post is going to be really important and could be a difference in a game like this.
Ronnie White, over 100 career games in a Seminole uniform on the touch there. Bottom of your screen, number 7. Hails from Tokyo, Japan. This is a narrower field at Cobb Stadium. A lot more space in the middle, less on the width. Four of 5 Miami wins this season have come on this pitch. And they've played some teams tough. 0-0 against Pitt back in the middle part of October. We talked about the win against Cuse. They played Clemson tough on the road. Miami actually had a 3-match win streak in the end of August into September. 5 wins for Ken Masur. Eli, cross. Too strong, Casey, you're already seeing a narrower fields. It does have an effect on players on service.
There has to be an adjustment there, and especially in a game like this where the wide channel is going to make or break teams. They're matched up with the 3-5-2 in the wide space. That area on the sides of the outside backs is important for both teams. And so how efficient you are, your technical execution, and then the type of cross you put in, all those little things matter. And you're right, the field can play a role in that initially early on, but adjustments can and will be made, I'm sure, throughout this game from both teams.
Allows defenses to play a little more compactly. Casey runs through the middle of the pitch. Individual efforts in the midfields, do those take center stage?
They can, but a lot of times in this kind of situation, you just want to change the point really quickly, speed of play, because what it does is Miami can go back into a 5-back if they want and make it really much easier to defend in the wide channel. So you want to move the ball quick if you're Florida State.
Knowles into the 18, ball low, intended for Dudley, deflected out of the box. Cerna was looking for McCartney. Holdover from Sarah Barnes' staff from 1 year ago.
It's just winning the ball in this middle third right here. It's a great dribbling run to go and make sure to create the 2v1, the overlap on the outside. It's Jordan Dudley in the box there looking to get it, but Miami does well to recover and be able to get this out into the wide space.
Miami has played Florida State tough over the last few years, though, all time. Florida State leads the series 19-4. A 2-0 victory last year in Tallahassee. Both goals coming from Jordan Dudley. Florida State outshot Miami 22-0 in the match. But back in 2018, Miami stunned the Noles here on this field. Can the Canes repeat under Ken Masur? $16 points for Florida State. They're in the ACC tournament, can finish as low as 6. You saw that bug pop earlier, setting the scene. They can finish as high as 2nd. Whistle there, going the other way.
And one of the things we're seeing from Miami in their matchup with Florida State is that they're allowing Hallie Salas to kind of play more as a sweeper in behind. When you have 2 front runners against you in general, but especially with the skill set of Dudley and Huff being up there in Washington at times, that is very difficult. So they're actually player for player marking, making it really hard if a ball is played to their feet, and allows Salas to be able to sweep up anything that's played in behind or if they are beaten.
Who are some players you feel like for Miami that are going to have to put in some high effort or high intensity efforts here tonight against Florida State?
Well, I think Crosby and Nichols did too much space.
EY trying to play through the middle for the Noles. Clarice Foley. We'll have 4 ACC championships for you right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. Our coverage of the men's and women's cross-country races begin tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Sunday, the women's soccer championship gets underway, and Tuesday, November 5th, the field hockey quarterfinals begin. Wednesday the 6th, the men's soccer championship starts. ACCN is the home of ACC championships. Gotta love this time of year. Casey, you played for Carolina. You starred there. Once that calendar flips from October to November, did you feel it in the air trying to win championships at Carolina?
100%. It's the best time of year. You look at your non-conference, you look at your conference, and you hope to qualify for that conference tournament and then the NCAA. So you look at those 4 different segments, and certainly conference tournament is an exciting time. And it's exciting if you have a really great season, or it's exciting if you need to qualify and start over again and be able to add to your resume. It's just fun to compete.
Good ball forward. Washington racing in Foley. Ken Masur said she reads the game so well. Unafraid of coming out. And that time does well. The redshirt freshman who came to Miami with a knee injury 1 year ago. And that's what led to the redshirt. Ken Masur very excited about her future.
And you make a great point as well, is just that space behind the back line. Her ability to come and get behind the back line allows them to have the confidence to press a little bit higher, Miami, because you have to control that space. And when you have a goalkeeper that's not hesitating and coming out and cleaning up things behind that just really allows your team to defend in the way that Ken Masor wants to see his team defend going forward.
And Coach Masor talked about, giving her confidence, right? A young player like that will go through the waves of feeling good about herself, and then maybe a performance doesn't go her way, but reassuring her that she's making all the right decisions and continuing to learn and evolve as a player. Just underway here in Coral Gables.
And Aria, you'll see here the way FSU builds up. They build out of a two-back. They push Gilchrist into the midfield. That's to try to beat the pressure of these two front runners of Miami. So 20, the center back, pushes almost into a holding midfield role just to help be able to build out, because Miami definitely likes to press high with their two front runners.
And Casey, the Noles with 5 in the midfield, right? Unique. You got EY and one who played outside back. How does that change things defensively in the shape as the Noles look to try and press and counter and get into their transition game?
Well, the good thing about having wingbacks like Wynn and EY, it's not much different than an outside back. You just have a higher starting position, so you still have responsibility to come back into the back line if you are out of possession, but it gives them a higher ability to get up the field, and it allows there to be 2-against-1s more often higher up the field. So it just aids the way that Florida State wants to play, which is a possession game, but with dangerous play and making teams uncomfortable going forward.
Noles sure have made teams uncomfortable over the last 5 matches. 1 year ago, they set the ACC record for goals in a season, and this year they've done pretty close to it. 52 total goals, not quite on that pace from 2023, but still first in the ACC and averaging nearly 3.5 goals per contest. Do these Noles. So far, Miami's game plan working. Ken Masor talked about we got to send them different tactics in 10-minute intervals. And so far, Casey, no shots for Florida State.
Well, it's because they're putting this pressure in midfield. It's making a pretty direct game because of the way they're playing. There's certain parts of the field that they're picking up player for player, and just, you've got to win your battle. And that can be disjointing for a team early on, especially in a matchup.
Jimenez is on the touch. She's in starting for the injured Lara Dantas, the Brazilian, who got hurt against Carolina at the end of that matchup. Jimenez from Venezuela. Brian Penske telling us Dantas is going to miss this match and likely a few more as she nurses back to health. One change from Miami, Giselle Kazarski, the graduate transfer from Texas Tech, red card against Boston College. She's not available here for this one against the Noles. Todd to her feet, mishit, throw in Miami, and the Canes win some territory.
Well, I think it's worth mentioning too, Aria, with the way that the Canes play at home, 4 of their 5 wins have come at home. So they definitely defend their own turf, and you can see that in their mentality here, running forward, making it just uncomfortable for opposition by the way they press and the energy and industriousness of it.
Casey, both of Florida State's losses have come on the road here this season. Dudley, Noles have picked out some space. Into the path of Jimenez. She takes a touch, cuts it back to her left, angling for a shot low, saved. Foley diving to her left.
And this is the danger of the pressing we're just talking about, is because if you beat that initial pressure with a pass like this that springs Jordan Dudley forward, then everyone is scrambling for Miami. And Jimenez does a great job. It's great deception. I love that she kept this low. Just not enough power and enough direction, proper direction on this to really test Foley in goal, but it's a great attacking opportunity for Florida State, and the one situation that Miami really has to be aware of in their organization.
Florida State averages about 22 shots per game. That's their first of the evening. Dudley through the center now. Dudley on her right foot. Dudley fires, block. McCartney got a foot on it. Cleared out. Now Huff, she finds some space to operate. Quickly clamped down by Miami. One service into the box. Too much intended for Soleil Washington.
Well, and one thing we were talking about earlier is just the ACC championships. We'll take a look back at this. Dudley goes on the 1v1, and that's twice now in a matter of a minute that she's found herself being able to go forward. Gets the shot off, but just not the right direction on that. But this time of year as well, what gets so exciting is just being able to play in these in-state rivalry games as well. We're seeing it across the conference. That's so fun as well, right before you go into the ACC championships.
Jordan Dudley went down to Colombia for the U20 World Cup. Her and 6 Seminoles, 4 for the United States. Dantas representing Brazil. Jimenez representing Venezuela. They come back, the chemistry not quite what it needs to be for FSU. Jordan Dudley struggling to find her footing. And Brian Penske said she's starting to play free again. We've added Soleil Washington up there with the 2 front. It's relieved some pressure. Teams can't double team Dudley. And she's responded now with 5 goals in her last 5 matches. Van Zandt, Van Gilchrist. Turnover. What can Miami do with it here? Dressed in black on this Halloween night. Our ACC Network doubleheader. Virginia Tech follows on decision night all around the league. We will know our standings. We will know our bracket for the ACC championship. That begins this weekend on campus sites in the quarterfinals. Huff, time on the ball, carries it forward. Washington looking for runners, she'll dump it back.
And this is good decision-making from Florida State. They tried to go quickly, but Miami recovers well. When you have a team that's playing like Miami is, where they're matching up on certain players, you want to move the ball quickly and just make them shift, make them move, and try to get in the final third going forward.
Florida State does win a corner, their first of the evening. Shots of Nicholson, McCartney, and now Foley. Florida State opts to put Washington on the keeper, as well as Jimenez. EY from that left corner flag. Towards the back post. Again, a little strong. It'll be a goal kick. Middle portion of this first half, still 0-0. Miami, preseason pick 16 out of 17 total teams. Florida State was picked to win the league. Robbie Church in his final year at Duke got those honors for the regular season. Sophia Wen wins a throw in for Florida State.
And if Miami wants to kind of build into this game a little bit more, the defending has to turn into then keeping possession of the ball so they can transition into their attack. But it's so hard to do against Florida State because they love to press as well and keep teams locked in.
One cross, knocked down at the feet of a Seminole Washington. Back to win Miami, scrambles to get back in their shape. Another cross into the box. Kane's there to stifle it. Now Canali, the outstanding freshman, top 5 in the league in goals.
But that was so much better, Aria, because that's exactly what they need, is someone to be able to put their foot on the ball. Yeah, it wasn't brought down on the far side by Serna, but Crosby Nicholson was able to find the feet of Canali. Canali able to get out of some pressure. But you can just see the swarming defensive effort from Florida State, and so it's just not that simple to be able to play out against that pressure, because they're not a team that just looks to possess. They want to win it back high as well, and they're putting that pressure on Miami in their final third.
This counter press from Florida State so important to the tactics and to the style that they play. Goal kick there. Oftentimes Florida State will find ways to win territorial battles and flip the scripts. You get 6, 7, 8 players sometimes running in transition at the net. Here's this week's ACC Network Football lineup. It begins Saturday at noon Eastern with Stanford and NC State. Then Florida State hosts North Carolina at Doak. We'll cap the night with a big matchup between 18th-ranked Pitt and number 20 SMU from Ford Field at 8. Each game also available on the ESPN app. A couple of undefeateds playing in Dallas this weekend. Coach Narduzzi, Coach Lashley. Florida State in a good spot here. Shot, Foley save.
And this was great attacking from Jordan Dudley. She's finding space on runs from inside to out. She goes around, a good deflection there if you're a Florida State fan. It goes right to Washington. I thought this one might go over Foley. She picked out a spot, takes a good second prep touch right there, and then lets it go. But Foley handles that incredibly well. Doesn't try to do too much with it, just says, I'm going to keep this out of the goal, and then the second chance opportunity corrals it in.
Foul there on 16, the graduate transfer from Columbia, Grace Huron. Couple of big saves for Foley. Miami hanging tough so far in this first half. Noles have the first 4 shots with 2 shots on goal of this contest. Dudley brings it down, turns, finds a teammate, Jimenez. Jimenez looking to play it into the box. Foley didn't have to move far to get it.
And those are the types of things you're hoping for if you're Miami, is that little bit of impatience in the attacking final third from your opposition. Stay tight defensively, make it hard, and force those types of decisions. And you mentioned it, Foley's had a few good saves so far. In a matchup like this where there's a lot of individual talent as well for Florida State, you need your goalkeeper to come up big and make some big saves.
Kane's trying to gain a little bit of ground. Haven't had the ball long, foul called there. They'll go the other way, or maybe it was a handball. There's Crosby Nicholson, Casey, the sophomore transfer from Kansas State, hails from Paul Harbor, Florida. She's been a marathon woman, according to Ken Masur.
She has such an engine box to box. She's good aerially. She can win a lot of balls, win a lot of tackles, but she's also that holding mid that has a lot of sophistication in the way she plays.
Florida State looking for the opener. Miami has looked tactically strong so far. Noles throw-in coming deep in the Miami half. Dudley limping a little bit.
And Dudley was in a confrontation here with Jessica Kay, just coming through the back of her, does make contact right there and then lands very hard, but right on the back of her leg. Dudley does go down. It appears to be okay walking it off, but that's the type of defending. Miami is being really tough defensively and saying, you have your mark, stay with your mark, and then Salas is really in behind. And that can be really tough to play against, but also those 1v1 battles are risky from Miami, especially in their defending final third. And Dudley and Washington, Huff, those players are going to look to try to find space to penetrate.
Into the box, Foley came out. Shaky moments there for the Canes. Didn't quite look confident. Trying to get the ball out of the box. It falls to the feet of Florida State. Ashlyn Puerta into the game for Soleil Washington. Looks like the Noles opting for another player that fits more of the 10 mold, Casey.
Yeah, and that's something you can do when you're Florida State and you have the depth of roster that they have, is looking at just different things that might just change angles here, timing there, and just make Miami a little bit more uncomfortable, because so far throughout this game, they've done a really good job defensively.
Kovalik puts a shot on goal, just misses. Oh, it whistles wide.
And that's the counterattacking transition moment for Canali. She's in a really good spot. She goes, this is where you see her at her best, running at pace, a little bit of deception, finds a yard of space. And I like the finishing choice. She keeps it low. She looks to go for the corner. It is not very off at all to going into that side netting. And that's where Florida State's got to be careful. Those transition moments where you have a player like Canali who can make you pay.
9 goals for Canali this season as a freshman. That's third all time. in Miami program history for goals by a freshman in a season, the West Boca High School native. Brazilian U20 national team as well. Teammates with Lara Dantas of Florida State. Electric freshman that Miami has to build around. Almost gave UM the lead. Huff plays the width. Cross, block, corner. Florida State will have an opportunity for a set piece. That's number 9 for the Noles. Taylor Suarez, 2 goals on the season. Huerta, another freshman. Florida State freshman on the year. 20 goals, 20 assists. Towards the box, good ball, Huff. Rising high to meet it, just popped it over the bar.
And these are those kind of games where you might need something like this. For as good as Florida State is in possession, it's a small field. Miami's defending well. Sometimes you just got to get your head on the ball. She almost times this well. It's just a little bit too high. She's not quite able to get there. There's a lot of players around her, but she gets between 5 Miami defenders, and that's the mentality you need when you have those attacking set pieces in a really tight game in the ACC.
Your attention, please. Substitution for your Miami Hurricanes. Out number 2, J.J. Endo.
Caroline Hood, sophomore, in for J.J. Enda. Also should mention, Brianna Hudson is in the game for Florida State. Number 42, freshman from Rochester. And Empire State of New York. Cavalli. They call her Gio. This one ricochets back to Todd. That was Kyla Gallagher, sophomore from Farmington, Connecticut, transfer from Providence.
And what's interesting about what Miami's doing, yes, we're talking a lot about their defending, but really good decisions when they do win the ball. Crosby Nicholson flicks it on. It's great technical execution. Gallagher finds Canale's feet. All those little things are important decisions when you do win it of how are you going to attack the Seminoles. And they are finding those places to find the ball and get going forward.
The spirit of Miami. Ken Masur telling us earlier this week, that's a big culture piece, right? A pillar. 3 things he wanted to change: culture, style, and results. Foley on the kick. This is one of her specialties. Does well on direct. Puts it into the box. Canale. Gio Canale, ACC Offensive Player of the Week. About a month ago. 4 goals that week, a couple of games, multi-goal games for that freshman. Throw in, Gilchrist trying to shield off a Kane. It will go for a goal kick.
And this is something Brian Pinsky talked about. He didn't want to give up a lot of set pieces to Miami. They have Foley who can come up and take it. And then on corner kicks like this, they are very good in that attacking box.
Well, my mistake, it is a corner. So Miami, first corner of the night. In swinging ball. Well, finds the side netting. That is wasteful from Miami. Grambo. Want to remind you, Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, the ACC Huddle crew will get you ready for the day at Gerald Ford Stadium on the campus of SMU. A 60-minute pregame show leading into Stanford NC State at noon. Then they come back at 6:30, wrapping up the afternoon with highlights and analysis. And they'll preview Pitt SMU at 8 after the game. Stay right here on ACCN for a full postgame show to wrap up the night. Coach Lashley, Coach Narduzzi. Kevin Jennings has changed the complexion of SMU's season. A thrilling win over Duke in overtime last weekend. Pitt continues to be one of the surprises of the ACC. Miami football buzzing after a big victory over Florida State this past weekend. Cam Ward and the Canes. Mario Cristobal still undefeated, firmly in the playoff picture. Canali. McCartney. Into the space for Grambo. 1v1 against Suarez. Does well, stops on a dime, cross, headed down and out. Here's Dudley on the turn, she can fly. Dudley into space, watch her go. Jordan Dudley, the freshman. She's got Hudson on her right. Dudley, solo run, snuffed out.
And that's where Miami has to be very careful, but that was great in recovery right there. Now when the ball's out of bounds, they've got to find their shape again, but you can see just the pace of Dudley. We all know what she can do in transition. She can do a lot on her own. She takes the pressure right here, spins around McCartney, able to take space, and there's just a moment where Salas does really well. You have to think delay, 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 and then step in and time your tackle. That's what she does in that moment. But not only that, there's the second player that picks up that next ball. That's what Miami's doing well. It's the initial defending, yes, but the second person to come in and join the defending effort.
Hallie Salas doing so well there. The commitment to the ball, by the way, by the Canes. Florida State continues to ask questions. Through ball was intended for Huff. Hudson in the area, too, but Foley picks it up. Under 11 now to play in this first half. Miami has made it difficult on Florida State to find space. They've asked a couple of questions of their own in the attack. Now into Florida State's half. Canali lost it, cleared away. Gilchrist intending for the big target at 6'2", Rihanna Hudson. How about Dudley playing a little bit deeper? Well into the midfield.
But I like the idea from Dudley because she draws so much attention. So her dropping into that midfield space and being able to turn and spray the wide areas in their 3-5-2 system as players from Miami are marking. So they're being drawn into all different sorts of the field that they're not normally going to be in if you have just a 3-back or a 4-back that stays in a line. I like that. I think if she gets on the turn and can spray EY or Suarez in those wide spaces, I think that could be very effective for Florida State.
20 career goals for Dudley, but also 15 assists. She's done a nice job of finding her teammates when the attention is drawn towards her. Milton, Georgia native, the sophomore.
And what can really help that too, Aria, is for Florida State, is have movement when Jordan Dudley gets the ball. If that happens, a defender reacts sometimes, and then that just gives Jordan Dudley an extra half yard of space to be able to beat the pressure herself. So it's all that extra movement as well, and doing it all at the same time, which is easier said than done.
No doubt, Casey. You almost wonder if her and Taylor Huff can link up in the midfield to create something for Florida State through the middle.
Exactly. I think you're right with Taylor Huff coming from underneath a little bit more, her movement off. She'll draw just as much attention as Jordan Dudley in her own right. So that counter movement off of each other causes the defender to react, even if their assignment is to stay close to a certain player.
The Canes smart in their tactics. They've compacted the field on Florida State. They've pressed them in different spots. Foley, smart, dribbles it back into her box, picks it up. Ryan Penske called Rihanna Hudson Jekyll and Hyde. Said sometimes she's a little too nice on the field, but over the last month or so, we've found her mean streak, so to speak. We want her to be the nicest person off the field, which she is. And then on the field, ruthless. 6 goals now in her rookie campaign. Foul going the other way. And Miami on a set piece. This could be an area that the Noles have been exploited on. They've given up 5 set piece goals over their last 6 contests.
And this is rare to see with Foley coming forward, but we knew this was going to happen. She's done it all year. She's got a great service. So as a goalkeeper coming all the way up.
Plays it short instead. Miami creates an angle. That ball to Todd.
And I think on both of the last set pieces, the last corner kick plus that one, the service has just really let Miami down. They're going to want to be able to focus in on that. One of the things they do really well in the run of play is their early service to put teams under pressure in their goal, but Addie Todd had no problem with that one, and the same thing on the last 2 set pieces. So if that's going to be part of your attack, that has to be a little bit more concentrated, and the execution has to be better.
Without a doubt, Casey, especially for a Miami team, they may not have a ton of opportunities to work with. Nice ball from Dudley. Canes back line, though, again, up to the task. Still Florida State. They've dominated the possession here in the first half. Huff rolls the ball forward. She'll carry. Miami gives her some space to operate. Beckman, senior, transfer from Texas A&M. Has been one of Florida State's vocal leaders, according to Brian Penske. Playing that 6th position in that holding mid spot. Tough to replace a player like Leilani Nesbitt that the Noles did from 1 season ago. But Beckman has bridged that gap here in her final year.
And Brian Penske talked about her just being a destroyer and an animal in midfield, being able to win the ball back, but also just so good in possession, her tempo on the ball. And Miami's really trying to stay in front of her and take her out of possession as the ball circulates. But she's a player that's really critical to this attack as they build through the thirds.
Simmons playing in the back line now, former striker at Tennessee. This is good from Florida State. Wide to Dudley. Tries to keep it in and does. Right on that end line, into the width. And Florida State will re-diagnose and resurvey the field now. Falling is that Huff, who got clipped. Foul called, much to the chagrin of Grace Huron.
And right on cue, it's Beckman that's starting this attack with a little give and go, finds Dudley in the space. Good composure right here for Dudley just to keep it in the final third. I like this patience to recycle. All of this is important for Florida State because it makes Miami chase. They find the feet of Taylor Huff. That's who you want on the ball. She's shifty, and she draws the foul.
A couple yards ahead of that U painted on the fields. This is Taylor Huff, top 15 in the country in points and goals, one of the best players in the ACC. Crossing it towards the back of the box, caught a player from Miami's head.
And again, that's Crosby Nicholson right there, and she's so good in the air. She's so calm, composed, and does a really good job of winning balls. She drops off right when the service happens, goes right up. She has the frame to do it, but also the timing, and that's what you want. You want her flicking this away and out of pressure. I love that she drops that 4 or 5 yards right on the service and knows that I'm not going to head that back where it came from. I'm going to get it into an area that's not dangerous, and that's exactly what she does.
Out number 3, Taylor Huff. In number 20,
Palm Harbor native. Noles will substitute again here at the half. Right before the half, I should say, late in the first half. Camille Ash in. Olivia Lebdowie in as well. Huff and Dudley will take a breather right before the break. Still 4 minutes to play in this opening stanza. Casey, thoughts so far?
Well, I think if you're Miami, these 4 minutes are the most important 4 minutes, in my opinion, because you've done a lot of really good things.
Hudson trying to get the ball down. She's got the net. Rihanna Hudson has the opener for the Noles here in South Florida.
And that's exactly, Aria, why I said that, because there's been so much good work from Miami. They've been great defensively, and you want to get into halftime feeling that. And just in a moment, off a throw-in, just a hopeful ball flicked over the top twice, and then it's Hudson, just gets this on frame, it takes a deflection, and that's sometimes what it takes for a good team. They have to just figure out, how do we get this in the net? I like this from Hudson because she hits it as it's coming down. When you have a defender on your outside shoulder coming across inside to defend you, good things happen for the attacking team, and that's what happens there for Florida State.
Rihanna Hudson was the Rochester Citizen of the Year in her hometown. Nothing nice there about Hudson except for the goal. Haunting that Miami defense here on this Halloween night. Florida State finds the first goal of the evening, and that changes how Miami's got to play now.
It does, and I don't expect a huge change in this final 3.5 minutes necessarily, because you don't want to open up even more space for Florida State to potentially extend their lead. But I think as you go into halftime now, if you're the Hurricanes, you got to figure out, okay, do we continue this way and see if we get a counterattacking transition opportunity, or do we come out maybe in a different system with a little bit higher of a press and see if we can get one back early and then go back to the way they were defending in this first half? Because it was incredibly effective, Arya.
Yeah, the Canes have played with a lot of spirit here in this one. How about this streak from Florida State, Casey? 50 games in a row with a goal date that spans over 3 seasons.
It's unbelievable. It really is an amazing stat. And it's something we were talking about a little bit earlier, that teams that have been in this type of position that are used to scoring goals, they just have to continue on the course. They have to say, okay, here's our principles, here's how we play, keep going, and manage the frustration. And a team that scores in that many consecutive games certainly knows how to do that and still end up finding production.
Casey, asking around the league for head coaches and their thoughts on Florida State, just anonymously, some coaches believe this Florida State team is every bit or more talented than the one that won the national title 1 season ago. Brian Penske himself said this is the most athletic Florida State team I've ever had, and in my 3 seasons, the depth, we've never had this level.
Well, one of the things that Brian Penske talked about, to your point, was that athleticism piece with Van Zanten in the back line and Cameron Simmons. Their ability to commit numbers forward but still be able to transition to defense is something that they can do extremely well, and that's why this 3-5-2 system is really fitting their personality.
Miami. 1 minute and 40 seconds now. A bit of possession, but dispossessed. Ash couldn't get a foot on it. It does fall to the feet of Puerta. The freshman from San Diego tries to switch the point of attack and does. Suarez, a lot of youth on the pitch for FSU at the moment. Puerta. Suarez, 1v1 now. She earned the corner. Yes, she does. 1 minute to play.
And critical moments right here again for Miami. You do not want this to turn into a second goal and provide that much separation for Florida State. So make sure you're organized in your zonal and your marking, everything right here. And Foley's definitely doing that to make sure that nothing simple comes on frame.
4 assists on the year for Puerta. Gold jerseys flood the Miami box. Towards that back post, pretty good ball. Down, cleared out, whistle. Foul called.
And Heather Gilchrist is the one that goes up, and you'll just see in a 1v1 matchup right here, there's just a little bit of a push right at the last minute to be able to separate. So that ball's played in, a little push in the back, nothing too much in it, but it does give her that half yard of space to get something on the ball.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
There's the half. Florida State won thanks to Rihanna Hudson's goal.
It's Florida State 1.
Right, 83% of the possible minutes were played by the starters in that first half. Miami rarely substituted. 95% of the possible minutes were played by Canes starters. See if that depth helps Florida State wear down Miami here in the second half. It's an Knowles team in the second half, has outscored opponents 30-8 in the final 45 minutes.
When you mention the U20 Women's World Cup and how that can be really hard, it can definitely be disjointing for a team, but you're seeing the flip side of it where the depth is able to get some opportunities.
Canali on her right foot, shot blocked. Well done by Van Zanten. And a offside flag goes up on the far side. Last 5 matchups for Florida State this season, they've outscored opponents 17-3. And this 3-5-2 formation that they've gone to has allowed them to open some things up. They lost 2 in a row earlier this season at Wake Forest and at Virginia Tech. The first losses for this Knowles program in over 2 years. but they've responded. And over the last month or so, they've looked like the best team in the league. And that's saying something with the way Duke has played, with the way Carolina has played. Wake Forest has looked so dangerous this season, too, under Coach DeLuz. The Allies ACC Women's Championship. That's going to take center stage for us here over the weekend in Wake Med Soccer Park.
When you talk about Florida State and the form that they're in and going to that 3-5-2, it just allows more numbers to get a little bit more forward. So sometimes they have 4 players along the back line of their opposition if EY and Win get extremely high. That makes it very, very tough for a back line, one, to be able to defend, but also be able to clear. And so they're able to gain possession higher up the field. And with their talent on the ball, they're able to take advantage.
No doubt, Casey. 7 goals against Pitt, eye-opening, 4 against Virginia and North Carolina. Some quality teams in this league that have had a tough time slowing down the Noles attack. Jimenez on the touch. Foul called. She was clipped. Marianella Jimenez, Venezuelan international. 1 year here for Florida State. She played 3 years of junior college ball. A little strong there. It'll be a goal, a kick for Miami. Soleil Washington, the Jamaican international, on your screen.
And even though we're only a couple minutes into this second half, already we're seeing that Miami is coming out and defending in the same shape. They are defending in a 3-5-2. They attack out of a 3-4-3. We're seeing the same thing so far. That allows the back line of Florida State to be able to set possession. As we take a look as the foul's called, it'll go Miami's way, but it allows Florida State to set possession a little bit higher up the field and also allows Miami to mark the 2 front runners of Florida State, which is what made them so incredibly effective in the first half defensively.
Five wins for Miami, first season under Ken Masur. 1 ACC victory, got their first under Ken with the win at Syracuse. Prior to this season, Miami had struggled. In the last 3 seasons, 5 ACC wins. Dan Radakovich, Miami athletic director, has committed a ton of resources and promises to Ken Masur about the future of Miami women's soccer. And Masur told us it's going to be tough, right? The ACC is not forgiving. We will have some speed bumps, but we will play an inspiring brand of soccer that Miami fans can be proud of.
And we talked about early on, it's about buy-in as well, and that's something that he was really happy with the players buying into the staff's vision and that forward-thinking play and continuing to build that and grow that aggressive, gritty style. And we're seeing that tonight, and it takes time, but so many of their games have been 1-goal deficits. They are a team that doesn't give up, that doesn't break too often. They just bend a little bit, and they haven't turned that all into results, but there's been some really good performances along the way in this conference.
No doubt they have doubled their shots per game from 1 season ago. Defensively still strong. That will materialize as they continue to evolve as a team. And this Florida State team, on the other hand, has been a juggernaut now for over 15 years. Mark Krikorian turned it into a monster, and now Brian Pensky has the Noles humming. This shot saved. Foley went down to a knee to get it. Into space. Canali lost it. Noles will reset. Gilchrist. Simmons made the move to the back line from a wing spot earlier in the year.
Mario, we're seeing more moments like this where Huff can get on the ball and there's more possession and patience. That's what Brian Pensky talked about, that next evolution is.
Good ball in. Foley was able to meet the pass and meet the cross.
And this was a great build-up play. It's Soleil Washington that gets the ball across, goes to the back post. What a great save from Clarice Foley there with the kick save. it starts the attack for Miami the other way. But Florida State's starting to settle a little bit more in possession in this half. And I was talking about that evolution that Brian Pinsky wants to see. When do you go forward direct, and when do you decide to keep the ball?
Stoppage of play, and the clock halts as Canali took a knock.
The ball was played up there in counterattacking transition. Canali was going into the outside channel. Not exactly sure what. Oh, just a little bit of a twist there. Yeah, that hurts. That one hurts for sure, and just needs to walk it off. But she has been really good for Miami, I think, in the attacking transition. So someone they want to see be able to stay on this field if they're looking to try to get the equalizer, as they are.
Miami head coach Ken Masur called her a future pro, but said so much to learn between now and then. Florida State, year 3 of Brian Pinsky, a College Cup 2 years ago. Hudson's got 1 goal tonight. That time, Miami denies her of another chance.
And that's the space behind that Salas has been so good, and it's hard to match up 1 against Hudson, against Dudley, Huff, Washington, but you've got to have that covering player, and Salas has played that role exceptionally well. Her tackles have been great, and the timing has been just absolutely perfect in those moments.
FSU switches the point of attack. Now will operate on the far side. Back to Gilchrist. Two years ago, a College Cup. Last year, a national championship for Brian Pinsky. What does year 3 holds? Simmons, ton of time. Miami's now dropped back. Van Zandt. Huff. Knowles reset. Simmons carries it forward. Wide channel. Cross block. They'll throw it in.
And you definitely only have 2 options in that moment. It's either keep the ball, move it around the back when Miami gets that deep and compact defensively, or you got to dribble penetrate. And that's what Simmons does well in that moment, just to gain space.
Jimenez. Now Simmons. All the way around. Van Zandt.
And Aria, we certainly weren't in the locker room at halftime with Brian Pinsky, but it just looks like he might have said, hey, let's settle a little bit in possession on the ball. We don't have to go for it all the time. That's what getting a goal has afforded Florida State in this moment. So probe, move the ball, dribble, penetrate, draw someone out of this compact shape. But right now, there's no reason to force possession until there's an obvious opportunity to go forward, especially if Miami is going to sit in defensively, or even if they're not choosing to, being forced to by this possession.
Huff has drifted wide. Now Van Zandt. She progresses into the attack a little higher up the field. And in the end, Beckman's last ball, final ball, leaves a lot to be desired. Goal kick.
And I think there's space for Beckman to be able to take and actually have a strike on goal herself. I like the thought of an against the grain pass that she's trying to play in, but just no runners off the ball in that moment.
Beckman from San Antonio, Texas. Approaching 80 career games now between 2 schools, 2 conferences. The leadership that she has shown for FSU has been vital for Brian Pinsky. Florida State's got a top 5 RPI, and with a hot finish to the season, could very well earn a #1 seed and continue opportunities to play at the Seminole Soccer Complex and one of the liveliest fan base in the country, one of the best home atmospheres you'll find in the college game.
Well, that's what's going to be so exciting, too. It's like you talk about the #1 seeds as they go into NCAA tournament. Still a lot more games we played, a lot of teams represented from the ACC, but Mississippi State from the SEC also making a case for that. So it's an exciting time, but as always, you're seeing a lot of ACC teams in that conversation.
No doubt, Casey. You could see 3 ACC teams with #1 overall seeds. Hudson, just inside the 18, stops on a dime. Cross attempt blocked, stays with it. Was looking for Beckman. And Indahl found the ball. Grambo clears, Van Zanten. She charges on. Now Miami, can they find something in transition? Canali, 1v2, now 1v3, still Canali. Gilchrist wins the battle. Oh, and a foul called on EY.
There's just a little bit of the extracurriculars after the fact. There was really no need for that. Canali does look to draw the foul in this moment. A yellow card is given to EY, it looks like, in that moment, but it's in a defending transition for Florida State. They're not tight enough to Canali. There's 2 players back. One of them, Gilchrist, can be tight. Someone else can cover him behind. Canali goes in the 1v1, takes on 3 players. They've done well here, and it's really just a little bit unfortunate how this happens, because EY comes in and uses her momentum, and it looks like a bad foul from there, but just bad timing and a little bit of a lack of composure there defensively.
A tough break for Florida State there. But Miami now perhaps in its most dangerous position of the night. Gotta love the rivalry. A little bit of a back and forth of let's go Canes and let's go Noles springing out at Cobb Stadium. This is a big chance. Standing over the ball, Canali and Gallagher. Who will it be? It'll be Canali, the freshman off the crossbar. Still in the box, it's going the other way. Foul called on Miami. Oh, the equalizer. Casey, was that close?
Incredibly close. It was dipping down too. It's almost like if it would have been a yard maybe further back, it would have dipped down into the goal. Canali does really well. This is incredibly hard technically to do. Get up and over a wall. She goes exactly where she should, because that's where the goalkeeper, Addie Todd, cannot see where the ball is coming. So rescued by the crossbar in that moment.
So Florida State dodges a bullet. Under 33 minutes to play. It's a Seminole team that has been dangerous in the second half all season long.
If they're going to see out this one, they're going to need to get probably another goal potentially. They don't have to, but it would make it much easier for them. But also, the way that opportunity came was not being organized defensively if you lose possession, and that's something that has to be better from Florida State, is what do they look like if they lose the ball, and where is Canali? Make sure you know where she is and commit someone to being tight to her.
Florida State has relied on its depth this season, and they'll do so again here in the early portions of the second half. There's Jordan Dudley.
Out number 7, Ron Evening. In number 30, Ashlyn Huerta. Out number 8, Mariela Jimenez. In number 15, Peyton McGovern. Out number 28,
Here's McGovern, first touches of the night.
in number 11, Jordan Dudley.
The freshman from Bristow, Virginia.
Out number 42, Brianna Hudson. In number 13, Camille Ash. And substitution for Miami. Out number 16, Grace Henry.
Here's Dudley.
In number 10,
Dudley
Julia Edwards.
puts a ball towards the net, header. Drifts wide. It was Huff making the run.
And that's the attention that Jordan Dudley does draw, and Huff makes that blindside run, which is really effective, coming across in front of the back from Miami, coming and getting that inside space. If she's able to flick it on, it would be incredibly effective. But I like this ball from Simmons, breaking a line, letting Dudley do her thing, and then drawing the attention as Huff goes through. Again, Salas being in a spot to be able to defend well.
Here's Suarez, number 9. Just checked into the game. Throw in Miami. Canali. I want to remind you we'll have 4 ACC championships for you right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. Our coverage of the men's and women's cross-country races begin tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Then Sunday, the women's soccer championship gets underway. And Tuesday, November 5th, the field hockey quarterfinals begin. And Wednesday the 6th, the men's soccer championship starts. ACCN is the home of ACC championships. Florida State looking for a second to create some breathing space. On the road at Miami. McGovern. Manzanton looking for the through ball. It was for Ash. A little too strong. Goal kick.
And I think it's becoming increasingly clear that Miami wants to stay really stingy defensively and look for a special moment. And if the special moment's going to come, it's going to come through Canali. And we've seen it in transition. We've seen it on the set piece. So they're kind of going back into a 5-3-2. It looked like a 3-5-2 more in the first half because they were pressing higher up the field and gaining space. But keep the game tight, see if they can draw fouls or generate an attacking set transition moment where they can catch Florida State off guard.
And the live standings here on decision night. Wake a goal early. That moves them into second. Notre Dame also gets a goal against Pitt. So your live standings right there. Wake holding that tiebreaker over Florida State. That could prove to be decisive here this evening. It's a challenge for a lot of these teams. Suarez, foul call, Dudley clipped down. And now a set piece for Florida State in a dangerous position.
And what Dudley's done, and Hudson did this as well, Washington's done it as well in the second half better, is that back-to-goal play, being able to beat the initial pressure or draw that aggressive tackle to get these set-piece opportunities. And she does a really good job here. Suarez finds her, gets her body in front. It's just that last second to get the body in front, and it uses the momentum of the Miami defender against her.
Huerta standing over the ball. The edge of the S of Canes on the field. Towards that back post, pretty good ball. Headed away. Oh, flag one up. Wouldn't have mattered.
It's a good ball in behind because it's floating away from a goalkeeper in this moment, so it's very, very difficult. Emily McCartney does really well. She's got one player that she's got to keep an eye on, but still judges the trajectory of the ball and is able to clear, and the offside also was called as well.
Canali fighting for it. Gilchrist there. Just disposes of it for a Miami throw. Call a handball. Well, they're on Canali.
And she definitely doesn't agree in that moment, and she's competitive. She wanted to go, trying to go forward. And we've talked a lot about what she can do in the attack. She's incredibly comfortable on the ball. Her movements are good. She finds space. But one of the things that Kim Masur talked about was just her ability to also be effective out of possession and her defending. And that's something as a freshman that she's really improved on here early in or as the season has gone on, is her defending effort as well.
Florida State trying to pick something out in transition. Suarez sprung free. Will that be a throw? It's towards that corner flag, or a corner for FSU. It will be a corner indeed. Fourth corner coming for Florida State. Puerta. Outswinging ball. Right at that penalty spot, cleared away. It's Canali. Van Zanten. Now how about Dudley? Drawn this far back, getting on the ball.
Well, that's what's exciting about so many programs, but I think Florida State, when you think about Florida State, they're soccer players. Jordan Dudley says, okay, this is our formation. No one's back. We're on an attacking corner kick, and she fills the spot and knows exactly how to set play there for her team, and it's incredibly sophisticated from them.
Puerta dummies it off to Huff. Huff rips it towards the middle of the box. Foley's got it. Knowles will press. Foley clears. Huff picks out a long ball beautifully to Suarez, running on Foley, beat her to it.
And that's a space area that Florida State was trying to find in that first half, and they were able to find it once or twice through the feet of Dudley turning and spraying the ball into that area. But against the defending effort in transition, that's where Florida State can really get into. And I think they've done that a better job in the second half, is figuring out, one, when to recycle play and settle in possession like they're doing now, and two, when to find the wide areas and create 2-against-1s and overloads in that wide space. And that's really what's helped them get a little bit more possession in this second half.
Throw in coming for Kyla Gallagher and the Canes. A little over 23 minutes left in this game. Florida State does have 3 points in the bag and will put themselves in the best possible position to try and work for an ACC championship bye if they can. Would need some help. Knowles can go anywhere from 2 to 6, depending on the results here tonight. McGovern. Simmons. Gilchrist.
You can just see how compact the shape is. So this is where patience is important, but also speed of play to shift the back 5, to shift the midfield 3, and find little gaps in there. You have to be comfortable back to goal and being able to move the ball quickly. Otherwise, Miami can just stay in their shape.
Play has been stopped. There's a foul called. Amin Hadzik, the official. McGovern. Huff. Puerta puts a shot on frame. Well wide there, goal kick Miami.
And that's what happens when Miami starts to concede space. You can take advantage at the top of the penalty area, and that's what Puerta looks to do, not able to direct it on frame. But this is what you're going to see. She just creates a half yard of separation and able to get around her defender and able to get that opportunity off. And that's something I think Florida State's going to see a little bit more of as Miami drops into that area. There's going to be some space on top of the penalty area to look for long distance opportunities.
Soleil Washington back in for Camille Ash. One 0 in favor of the Noles. Brianna Hudson's goal the difference. Miami has been comfortable giving up a lot of space and a lot of possession. However, they've had some moments they've threatened the Noles with.
Well, the flip side of giving up all of that space and that possession is you keep the team in front of you. Florida State's a really good team in front or behind, but that's the lesser of two evils. And also what that does is it creates space for a player like Canali to be able to go in behind potentially on a direct ball. And so when you allow a team to gain that space, you've created a lot of space on the flip side that you potentially can take advantage of. It's hard to do versus Florida State because they have such an athletic and smart back line with Simmons, Van Zanten, who's in there as well, who just recovers quickly. But it's certainly something Miami might still be able to take advantage of in this second half.
Here's this week's ACC Network football lineup. It begins Saturday at noon Eastern with Stanford and NC State. Then Florida State hosts North Carolina, and we cap the night with a big matchup between 18th ranked Pitt and number 20 SMU at 8. Each game also available on the ESPN app. Mac Brown, North Carolina, at Doak against Mike Norvell in Florida State. Seminoles continue to try and figure things out on the gridiron. Brock Glenn or Luke Cromenhock at quarterback. That becomes the question to try and finish the season and build towards the future. North Carolina with its most impressive win of the season at Virginia on Saturday. Florida State looking for a second. Played out wide. Suarez has time, cuts it to her left, on her left foot. Suarez, shot blocked. Simmons created space, service, had it out. A little over 18 minutes to play. Casey, in the Halloween spirit, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh my goodness. Anything Reese's, I think, is just like all year round. It's not even just Halloween, but I'm going to have to go with that. It's the first thing that pops into my head is anything with peanut butter and chocolate is the way to go.
We were meant to be broadcast partners. That is also my favorite.
Oh, I love that.
Tied with Kit Kats.
Oh, that's a good like throwback one. I didn't even think about that.
You get the best of both worlds. Our producer, Brad Canfield, also chooses Reese's.
We didn't even plan this. We didn't even plan this. And that's how good Reese's is that's everyone's answer.
I think there are people at home right now that just went, you know what? I love Reese's. I'm with you guys. If Reese's wants to donate some NIL package to us, we're not going to complain. One 0 Florida State. Miami looking to equalize. Would be a stunner here in Coral Gables. They've played Florida State tough. The Noles, though, have controlled much of this match, but still searching just for that second goal to create the breathing space. This is good from FSU. In the end, Miami clears.
When we're seeing right there, that's what's so hard is that there's no one really up top besides Canali, and she's having to do a lot of defensive work. Indaw has slid back into the midfield. At times there's 6 across the back line for Miami. But when they do get possession like we just saw, Florida State showed some really good discipline defensively. You don't want to foul. You don't want to feel like you have to jump in and just win the ball back right away. You've earned that lead. You've established possession. So they just have to figure out in moments how to manage it if Miami does figure out how to create a little bit more numbers forward in these final 15 minutes.
If it stays like this, Casey, right, 1-0 with Florida State ahead, Miami's looked content sitting back, but is there a moment or a spell where you try and just see what you can get out of this and maybe go for it and go for the goal with tactics?
Well, I think it can be incredibly hard at times because you could do that. You could say, okay, we're going to continue to press super high, and it could become 2 or 3-0 before you know it because there is a big risk to that, and you're playing a team like Florida State. So once you concede that goal, you have to figure out what gives us the best chance of equalizing. Is it pressing, or is it making sure we keep our shape and then looking for opportunities to go forward? And I think that's what they've settled on, and it does make sense to a degree against a team that's as good as Florida State is.
And for Florida State, you've got the 3 points. It's 1-0, maybe not the scoreline you thought you would have coming in. Perhaps you thought it'd be 3-4-0. But Miami's played well. They've been compact. They've made life tough.
Well, I don't think we see this in the second half if that goal doesn't go in the 42nd minute. They were very close to getting to halftime at 0-0 with player marking in the back, with one sweeper in behind of Salas, pressing a little bit higher when they could, and they had the cues to step. So I think we would have seen more of that. But when that goal happens, you have to really think a little more tactically of how we like to play versus what do we really think will get us a result.
Brian Penske was candid with us as well. As this ball floated into the box, Foley does well. She's been impressive here this evening. Brian Penske saying, look, we've got to have all of our efforts on this game to win this game, but we do pay attention, right, to what's going on around the league. He was wary of the fact that Florida State might have to be on the road quickly for a match Sunday. They wouldn't go back to Tallahassee if that's the case, so you are managing a long week potentially if you're Florida State. Beckman, Knowles prod for the second goal.
And the way that Miami's defending, it's completely different from the first half, but it is as equally difficult to play against as players because you have to really understand how to move defenses. You have to probe off the dribble. You have to play at a certain speed of play. You've got to outplay in the 1v1 when you are matched up with one other player. So there's so many different nuances to how to attack. So this is something that Florida State, I think, will see as they go through ACC play and even into the NCAA tournament. Teams are going to want to do this at times, and they're going to have to figure out how to beat that. And they've done a really good job with it today, but there's always an evolution and growth that can happen.
Sophia Wen back in. It'll be Suarez to the bench. In the past, Casey, Florida State's relied on individual talent, right? Some 1v1 brilliance that has unlocked defenses and back lines, has opened up the shapes of teams in the way they try and face Florida State, and then they pour on multiple goals in the process.
Well, and so often when you play against someone that's in a low block or is forced into a low block by your possession, it is a combination of tactics, ball movement, and then that individual brilliance. You're exactly right. Like, ultimately, you can have all the ball movement in the world in tactics, but you've got to have someone step up.
Good ball, Hudson. Beckman, she's finding a little bit of space, but it was closed down quickly. Corner coming, however, for the Knowles.
Well, with J.J. Indaw sliding more defensively, it takes Beckman out of the initial run of play. But I like this because it's a ball breaking the line, and then Beckman runs off of Hudson in this moment. Now she's facing forward, which actually is better for the Seminoles, and then able to generate this corner kick. But it's just another way to get her involved.
Corner, header, misses the net. Just wide of the frame. Oh, Huff was flying in.
There was no hesitation from Huff here. This one's out swinging, just goes and finds it. I like her technique on this, just a little underneath it. There's a lot of pressure, but that's incredibly close to being on frame. I like the way she seeks out the ball and is able to go for it. And there she's doing it defensively as well.
She has been a beast for Florida State. Haunting opposing defenses all season long. Goal kick, Foley, and a Miami program finishing out the season here under Ken Masur for the first time. 5 wins, 4 coming at Cobb Stadium. They have played a different brand of soccer under Masur. He said that we want to make opposing teams feel us. We want them to worry about us, and not just the other way around where we're just trying to scramble and find ways to keep score lines close. On the flip side, Florida State, one of the dynamic soccer programs over the last 15 years in the country. National champions 1 year ago. They look as threatening as ever here over the last 5 matches. Peaking at the right time.
I think that's something that can be underestimated too, Aria. You bring up a good point, is year after year being able to have that kind of influence when you're circled on everyone's schedule and people know how you want to play, and having new players come in all the time. That is not easy to do.
Stoppage of play. It looks like, is that Dudley? Well, on the corner of your screen, she was trying to figure something out, and on the field in front of us at 17, is that Flynn? I believe it is Flynn, the redshirt freshman. Slow to her feet.
Yeah, I'm just going to get checked on here as Moira Flynn just came in a couple minutes ago, so this is unfortunate that she's having to get checked out. But, you know, we were talking about Florida State and just being able to really adjust to how every opposition comes at them. And I think Miami threw something a little bit different at them today, and something that you don't normally see, which was that marking of the 2 front runners and being really matched up all over the field. And that can be incredibly hard to play against. So just another test for the Seminoles as they go throughout this ACC play and look to go towards the postseason. And I think for Miami, you got to be excited that you're playing with a team that has the caliber of Florida State in the first year under Ken Masur, and they'll continue to use that as a catalyst to grow as they go throughout the years.
No doubt, Casey. They've had a couple of draws this season against Virginia Tech and Pitt here on this field as we look at this again.
Yeah, just looking a little bit awkward there from Flynn, going down, playing it safe there as she went down. Definitely felt something, taking their time, making sure she's okay.
It's like Flynn able to walk off under her own power. That's a good sign. 9:38 to play here in Coral Gables. Canali will come back into the game. Casey, what do you make of Florida State's postseason projections? What can they accomplish here under Brian Penske in year 3? As Duke took a lead over North Carolina, Case, in Chapel Hill.
Well, that'll make for an interesting rest of the game, being in Chapel Hill, having the lead. So I think that's going to be an exciting finish for that one, and the Tar Heels will certainly look to get back into it. But, you know, you asked about Florida State and how they're going to be going into postseason play. They're always good. They're always going to be a threat. I think that you have to understand that about the Seminoles. But playing out of this 3-5-2 system is a little bit different. I kind of like seeing their personnel play out of it. How they match up with other teams is going to be interesting. How do you adjust in moments? And then you've got to have big players step up. There's so many little things that make the difference in postseason play.
When running onto the ball, first time cross. Come on, Foley did well, quickly off her line.
And substitution for Florida State, out number 30, Ashley Huerta. And number 11, Jordan Dudley.
Huerta and Dudley in.
Well, this is what I would expect from Miami. Go a little bit more direct, throws, balls in behind, a little longer. Try to get first balls, second balls. Let Canali be in and around the goal and see if you can generate one good opportunity on frame and see if you can get something out of it. Maybe make Florida State try to foul you. So it's going to be little things that are either going to help Florida State see out this game or Miami generate an opportunity for an equalizer.
That 1-0 scoreline so far, Duke ahead of North Carolina, would be huge for Florida State. It would move them up a seed line. So many different variables, Casey, to what could happen Sunday for so many teams. You could be traveling on the road. You could play at home, as you see Wake got a goal over NC State. Wake does hold that tiebreak over Florida State. So as it stands around the league, Florida State would be in third, depending on what happens between Virginia Tech and Virginia. But the Noles could go on the road, right, Casey? They could host at home a quarterfinal on Sunday. They could even get a bye. They're looking for the second here. Washington goes down. No call. Play on.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you bring up because it does allow you, though, as a staff and as players to just go, let's just take care of ourselves. Let's go win our game. And that's what Florida State's trying to do. They're trying to put it away off of Dudley's head. Washington is running in behind. That's how they scored their first goal, was off that flick on. Washington does get on the inside space, but goes down a little bit easily there in that moment. But Florida State has figured out some moments to be more direct and have runners off of those flicks, one-touch balls in behind, and that can catch a back line off guard, especially when they're trying to be aggressive to the initial entry pass.
McGovern enters the match for the Noles. Under 8 to play. Washington on the wing. Washington cross. Deflected throw-in coming for the Noles. Soleil Washington, Jamaican international, the 2023 Georgia Gatorade Player of the Year, hailing from Atlanta. Foul going the other way on Washington. Casey, we talked about Florida State, right? What about bigger picture, ACC? Who in this league has a shot to make it to the College Cup and beyond and win a national title?
I'll be honest, there's 4 or 5 that I think have a shot, because we're talking about who's even going to finish top 2 through 6 in the ACC, and it could be any of those teams. Duke's the only one that is out in front and the clear front runner and the ACC regular season champion. So any of those teams can beat each other on any given day. So I think that's a big consideration with the ACC. I can't just pick one. And I mentioned Mississippi State earlier. They're a team that's playing really well across the country as well. But I think the ACC has a lot of opportunity for Wake, for Duke, for Carolina, for Florida State, all those teams to be able to make it all the way.
And we're going to look at Virginia Tech and Chugger Adair's team against Virginia. Gosh, that's going to be a heck of a rivalry match in Blacksburg right after us. A little under 6 to play in Coral Gables on this Halloween doubleheader.
And you mentioned the Virginia Tech game. I think that one's really exciting because it's, hey, what are they going to be able to do as they go through the ACC tournament? Because they've had such an excellent year, and they're proving week after week that they belong in that conversation.
Huff. Hudson carves out space. Hudson on her left foot, turning into the red basket of Foley. Near post, Foley covered it. Casey, you and I covered so many Wake Forest and Virginia Tech games 1 year ago, remember? And seeing both of those programs make this rise. Coach DeLuz, Coach Adair, 2 of the good guys that you'll find in college soccer. And those programs have really elevated themselves in 2024.
Yeah, it's been really nice to see because they're always solid, good programs in the ACC, and it's an incredible conference. So to be able to have that consistency year after year is really big. It's taking that next step, and it's so fun to see them both do that.
Direct ball, Huff. Huff looking for a second. Huff blocked. Now Dudley. Dudley on her right. Huff again. Huff shot blocked for a second time. Miami not out of the woods. Dudley on frame. And Foley down to get it.
Well, credit Jessica Kay for recovering 2 times to be able to block opportunities on Taylor Huff. First touch just let her down a little bit in those moments, but good defending to recover and make sure that nothing too bad came from it for Miami.
Hudson, far side of your screen. Pass was intended for Washington. Too heavy. Under 4 to play.
And what we're seeing from Florida State's interesting too, because Hudson's gone out into more one of those wing back positions as well. So an opportunity for Brian Pinsky to try some different combinations.
Time now to get more, brought to you by Geico. And it's the goal that's the difference so far. Casey, Rihanna Hudson, 7th of the year.
And the freshman comes up big in a moment that's been a really tough game, and she gets a really good opportunity and puts it away.
Foul on the pitch in front of us. Florida State out shooting Miami in this one, 16-3.
Just take a look at it right there. It's Taylor Huff going up in that moment, and just with McGovern as well, and goes down. So good job getting her checked out immediately after that confrontation.
Taylor Huff, a shoe-in to make first team All-ACC here this season. She was SEC first team back in her days at Tennessee. Oh, some precipitation now falling in the 305. Clock stopped at 3 minutes, 9 seconds left. Unique in college soccer as the clock winds down to 0-0. One 0 to Florida State. Miami trying to find something late. It's cleared out, throw in deep in Florida State's half.
And these are moments that Florida State need to be really careful. You can see Canale, how creative she can be. There's going to be a quick substitution coming on, trying to make something happen in these final 3 minutes.
Throw in goes nowhere. Goal kick, Florida State. 2.5 to go.
I would assume on this goal kick, Aria, that Miami's going to stay really, really high. I mean, there's no reason right now not to. 2-0 is not going to make a difference for them. They're going to want to stay as high as possible if they can and try to win this. And it does look like Addie Todd will try to go long due to that.
McGovern. Huff. Acres of space out in front of her now. She'll carry it forward. Sprays it wide. Throw in Miami. 90 seconds to go. Simmons plays it forward. Foley scoops. One minute to play. Pushed ahead. Todd out. Will scoop and go down.
And it's smart from Todd to come out behind the back line because you're just not having your back line have to make any unnecessary sprint. But it always feels like Canali could do something or pull out something as the time winds down. And so they still need to keep hold of where she is and make sure that someone is tight to her and there's always cover to defend.
Casey, final thoughts here from Coral Gables.
I think Miami's did really well, made Florida State, really have to figure some things out on the attack, and they did that. Sometimes it's just a matter of a moment and then seeing out the game, and Florida State has done well so far in these last few seconds.
Well, it's a goal from Rihanna Hudson. The difference here tonight.
10, 9,
Florida State going to get its 5th victory in a row. They put themselves in a position now to find out what will happen for them in the Ally ACC Women's Championship. The standings, now all that's left is for the rest of the league to figure out what's going on. Brian Penske has a victory in Miami.